Teacher talking sports, what it does, what do, how we live. And let's continue the NHL Mount Rushmore series I've been doing, where I name who I believe are the four best players NHL history in each decade. Previously did NHL Mount Rushmore videos for four best players on each team's history, four best players at each position in NHL history. All of these are in a playlist. You could check them out. Today we land on the 1950s. So alphabetical order by last name, I decided to include Doug Harvey, Gordie Howe, Jacques Plante, and Terry Sawchuk. Now, the toughest guy to leave off was Rocket Richard. I mean, they have an award named after him for the league's leading goal scorer. I think if this was from 1946 to 1955, you would have been on there. But Ted Lindsay, Jean Beliveau, a couple other honorable mentions as well. But let's get into the four I chose, starting with Doug Harvey. Harvey played the whole, and let me say that 1950s Mount Rushmore, I'm going from the 1949-50 to 58-59 seasons, but Doug Harvey, defenseman, spent the whole season with the Montreal Canadiens, and during that time, he won four straight Norris trophies spanning from 1954-55 to 1957-58. Also had Hart Trophy finishes of second and fourth. First seven straight seasons from 51-52 to 57-58 was a first-team All-NHL. Also had Hart Trophy finishes of third and fifth three times. So if we look at his numbers, and he played during a time when defensemen weren't going to score a lot, but Harvey kind of changed the game at the time. So in the decade, 676 games, 57 goals, 300 assists, 357 points, 839 penalty minutes as well. Plus minus wasn't a stat until the following season. But his career high in points came in 56-57 when he had 44 assists, 50 points. Also had another season with at least 40 assists, had three more seasons with over 30 assists, and these were, I believe, all 70-game seasons, so not 82 like today. But yes, part of very successful Montreal Canadian teams who lived in the Stanley Cup, but for the decade, Harvey won 5 Stanley Cups, and in that time, 102 games played in the decade in the postseason, 5 goals, 57 assists, 62 points. Doug Harvey, some considered him the best defenseman prior to Bobby Orr. First member of my 1950s Mount Rushmore. Next, this guy was on the 60s one as well. That is the great Gordie Howe. Spent the whole decade with the Detroit Red Wings, as he did in the 60s as well. But in the decade, Howe won 4 Hart trophies, 51-52, 52-53, 56-57, 57-58. Also had Hart trophy finishes of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th. Won 5 Hart Rush trophies for leading the league in scoring. Was a 6-time first-team All-NHL. So for the decade, Howe played 688 games, 383 goals, 418 assists, 801 points, as I mentioned, led the league in points 5 different seasons, led the league in assists 3 times, led the league in goals 4 times. Each of those seasons had at least 40 goals. Every season in a decade had at least 29. Every season in a decade had at least 33 assists. Had 5 seasons with at least double-digit power play goals, led the league in game-winning goals 4 times as well. Won 4 Stanley Cups in the decade for the Red Wings, and during that postseason run for the decade, 63 games, 27 goals, 44 assists, 71 points. Gordie Howe, seen as one of the all-time greats, maybe on some people's Mount Rushmore for all-time NHL. He is the second member of my 1950s Mount Rushmore. Next, goaltender Jacques Plante. Plante actually only played well, didn't play from 1949-50 to 51-52. Only played 3 games in 52-53, 17 games in 53-54. But the rest of the decade was absolutely incredible. Won 5 straight Vezinas from 55-56 to 59. Sorry, 4 straight 59-60. We're not counting from 55-56, 58-59. Now the Vezina Trophy wasn't given to the best goaltender, just the goaltender, the lead goaltender on teams that gave up the least amount of goals. But you could argue that he deserved the Vezina if it was for best goalie every year. But twice was a first team All NHL, twice was second team All NHL. But for the decade, Plant won 187 games and 321 appearances, 2.01 goals against average, 925 save percentage, 44 shutouts for 4 straight seasons, 55-56 to 58-59. Led the league in goals against average, and 58-59 was actually his highest goals against average for the decade. 2.16. Now, when I said save percentage wasn't accumulated until 55-56, so those were for those 4 seasons. But each of the last 3 seasons of the decade, Plant led the NHL with 9 shutouts, 3 times led the league in wins, including 42 in 64 games in 55-56. But in really his 5 full seasons, had at least 31 wins in every one of them. Just like with Harvey, part of numerous Stanley Cup winning teams, Plant won 4 in the decade, and in his postseasons in the decade, 65 games, won 46 of them, 2.04 goals against average, 926 save percentage. Again, doesn't account for the whole decade, and 7 shutouts. Jacques Plante, one of the all-time great goaltenders, was the first to wear a protective mask. You could read up on that. He is the 3rd member of my 1950s Mount Rushmore. And let's end with another goaltender. That is Terry Sawchuk. Sawchuk spent the first 6 seasons of the decade with the Detroit Red Wings, then played 2 seasons with the Boston Bruins. Last 2 seasons of the decade were with the Detroit Red Wings once again. And during that time, again, Vezina for goalie who gave up the lead goalie on teams that gave least goals, but 3 times Vezina, 3 times was a first team All NHL, had 3 4th-place Hart Trophy finishes, won the Calder Trophy as the league's best rookie in 1950-51. But for the decade, Sawchuk, 584 games, had 291 wins, a 2.30 goals against average, 908 save percentage, again, not the whole decade, and 76 shutouts. So Sawchuk for the decade twice led the league in goals against average, but for 5 straight seasons from 50-51 to 54-55, had under a two goals against average. 3 times led the league in shutouts, and 4 times in the decade had at least 12 shutouts. Sorry, at least 11 shutouts. 3 seasons of 12. Also had a season with 9 shutouts for 5 straight seasons from 50-51 to 54-55. Sawchuk led the league in wins. 3 seasons in a decade had at least 40 wins, so some incredible numbers. Under a 3 goals against average every season, except his last one of the decade. Won 3 Stanley Cups with the Red Wings in the 1950s. For the decade, he appeared in 47 games, winning 28 of them, 2.09 goals against average, 9 shutouts. Terry Sawchuk, excellent goaltender. He is the 4th member of my 1950s Mount Rushmore. Let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree. Again, it was extremely hard to leave off the Rocket Richard. I could consider him for the 40s, although his career began in 42-43. But there's a possibility. Stay tuned for tomorrow. I'll be doing the 1940s. Not sure how many more of these I will do, but it's been a lot of fun. But anyhow, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.